All right, hello and welcome everyone to another Helminth builds video. So today we are going to be talking about Pillager Mesa. Mesa, obviously, as we pretty much all should know, has a free and open ability slot in the form of her 1, as that ability never gets used by Mesa. So I have decided to replace it with Pillage, which is Hildren's arguably most powerful ability. This ability does pretty much everything that I think Mesa wants at the current time, which is increase her damage by stripping armor. Our armor strip is absolutely immense for Mesa, especially in areas like the Steel Path, and giving her an absolute ton of shields. Whenever you get the shields from Pillage, which obviously is going to occur in pretty much all situations outside of fighting Infested that are outside the Heart of Deimos, because the Heart of Deimos enemies have armor. Outside of that one specific case where you're fighting regular old Infested, which are not a problem for Mesa, this is going to be maxing out your overshields constantly and stripping armor. And it has a very good range because a lot of its range is scaled based on duration, so you don't need your range stat. This makes her way, way tankier, increasing her EHP by about 32,000 EHP, which is massive for her survivability. In addition to that, of course, we're doing all of the other good Mesa stuff. The build, however, is, let's call it, high investment. This build is a lot. It's 5 Forma, including an Umbral Forma. And I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This build is overkill. It is overkill. It is way outside of what is necessary for anything. But that's kind of why I like it so much. This basically combines Umbral Vitality and Adaptation on top of Pillage to make it so that you're a couple Inaros worth of health whenever your 3 is up. And you're, like, doing pretty well even outside of that because you have the Adaptation. You basically become Inaros without Adaptation whenever Adaptation is active on you and your 3 is not. So you're outrageously hard to take down. In addition to that, Pillage adds something, for me personally, that has maybe been in contention from other people in the past, which is that I normally run Stretch on my Mesa, and that is because Mesa has to rely, in a lot of cases in close ranges, on Shooting Gallery to protect her. In the past, the Stretch would mean that these enemies would be stunned at much longer ranges, and that would be what I would sacrifice to be much, much safer as Mesa. Pillage totally removes the need for that. This giving you the instant ability to restore your shields basically completely removes the need to fully rely on Shooting Gallery. Shooting Gallery is still definitely an ability you should cast because it's a damage bonus, and also it is going to do the stun and save you from melee enemies in some cases, but that's way less necessary whenever we can also have Pillage on lock. So we're also above 200% strength now, and that's a massive, massive increase in damage for Mesa. It's worth noting that we are at 160% efficiency, but due to duration efficiency, our 4 is still maximum efficiency as it is a channeled ability. So we're not losing out on any energy economy stuff there, really, except for spending just slightly more energy on our other abilities, which is totally workable. And the other notable thing here is that we have Arcane Velocity, which is going to affect the damage output of our 4 by increasing its fire rate immensely. And yeah, it's really, really over the top and absolutely turbo when necessary for any content that you could possibly do. So let's show it off, because that's the thing we like most. But first, Regulators. There's an important thing to note on Regulators that everybody is probably looking at right now, and that's that there's no Hornet Strike in this build right now. And the reason for that is that Hornet Strike is actually not optimal on the Regulators, and that is because we run Anemic Agility instead. This increase to fire rate is very important because we need to ramp up our 4. For those that don't know, Mesa's 4 ramps up as it fires, and the more focused she gets by narrowing her cone of where she can shoot and auto-aim, she will do more and more damage as that happens, and you speed up getting to that point by adding more fire rate. So we get to our much higher damage much faster by adding fire rate, and on top of that, we just, we have plenty of other things to do here. We have tons of heat procs. This, like, fire rate is also a status skill. And like between the viral and the heat, of course, giving us some armor stripping on top of what we're already going to have with Pillage, enemies are just going to absolutely evaporate. They stand no chance whatsoever. Even with 22% status, we are going to be dumping tons and tons of procs onto enemies. So, with that, none of the other stuff here really matters, although, for anyone curious, the Trumpet is probably going to get a why would you use. I'm not fully done formatting it yet, but currently it is being worked on. So the basic gist here is that I would like to show off just how tanky this build is with these 20 Corrupted Heavy Gunners that are level 175 that we've been using recently for these tests. So, just in terms of tankiness, and I'm not going to turn on my 2 for this as that's overkill. Just in terms of tankiness, you can see my shields go down there, and then I get some shields. And these shields are not going to be going away. These shields give adaptation plenty of time to ramp up, and should they ever get lower than I'd like, I just put them right back to max. It is a very, very hefty amount of bulk that you gain from this. So much so that you can, because of shield gating, even just let your 3 go down in this situation and just recast it. Like between adaptation and like the ability to get this many shields, before my 3 goes down, I can just recast this, bump myself back up to shields, it goes down, I recast it, and we're back. We're fine. Unless you take a absolutely immense burst of damage there, you're going to be A-okay for the entirety of it. And then also, of course, we have the bonus of whenever we use our 4, these enemies have been significantly armor stripped and are now absolutely no threat to me because they might as well have lost like 100 levels with the amount of times I cast my 1. But naturally, it's pretty unrealistic to expect that you would cast Pillage, like let's say however many times it was, like 6 times or whatever. So we're going to show this again, but of course just with casting Pillage, let's say once. This casting Pillage once is going to be a pretty significant armor strip, getting rid of half of their armor, and it's pretty impressive just how much this speeds this up. We're going to show this without Pillage in a second here, but getting rid of half of very heavily armored enemies' armor is really significant and increases the speed at which you can do this by a lot. So now we are going to do this, of course, without Pillage. You can see once I'm fully focused, I can start getting in there, and the heat procs help a lot. But I have to be at full focus before enemies start dying, and in the last test, we did not even really need to get to this point for these enemies to start getting evaporated. So it's a pretty considerable difference whenever you look at it that way. So the immense amount of survivability we're getting from Pillage, along with the damage increase when we need it, is just so valuable on Mesa. It is very, very good. Originally, I was planning on just throwing Roar on Mesa and calling it a day because she just has the stats for it. That's absolutely a thing you can do. And it does work. It's a very good option. Roar is great, but Roar just doesn't have the huge defensive benefits that you get out of Pillage. And honestly, I think in the situations where Mesa needs it, this has pretty similar results in terms of increasing your damage by just lowering opponent's armor by so much. But yeah, that is Pillager Mesa. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it, and I will see you tomorrow.